Now, on BBC One, it's time for the news with Jan Leeming.
West Beirut, a rescue operation for the British. At home, more protests against the American raid on Libya. 26 miles through London, a record field for the marathon. And together in church, tomorrow is a day for both to celebrate. 35 British people were evacuated from Muslim West Beirut today under armed escort in an operation organised by the British Embassy. They'd been under threat since the American attack on Libya 5 days ago. In that time, 2 British teachers have been murdered and a television journalist kidnapped. This morning, the evacuees made for the Carlton Hotel and joined the convoy that took them through the museum crossing and into the relative safety of Christian East Beirut. From Cyprus, Michael Sullivan reports.
A convoy of vehicles headed early this morning for the Green Line, dividing East and West Beirut after the British refugees had assembled at a West Beirut hotel in response to a pre-arranged signal. It was the end of several days of fear and apprehension, during which they'd stayed behind locked doors and shuttered windows, fearful of kidnap or attack as a reprisal for the American raids on Libya. The journey took 15 minutes, the most dangerous part being the crossing of the notorious Green Line, where sniper fire was most to be feared. They left behind them a handful of British subjects, those who'd lived so long in Beirut they felt they could look after themselves. But the British ambassador said that West Beirut was still a very dangerous place for British subjects to be, and the capacity of the British Foreign Office to help them was now at a very low ebb.
I don't like East Beirut. Besides, I'm very sad to leave my home in West Beirut because I've lived there for 6 years. So.
Are you living to London or?
Cyprus, maybe London. I don't know.
We hope perhaps to be able to come back, inshallah.
Some of the refugees will remain in the comparative safety of East Beirut for the time being. Some will cross by sea to Cyprus tomorrow, and some of those will travel on to Britain, though most would want to return to Beirut if and when the danger should pass.
There's been an unconfirmed report from Libya that the wreckage of the F-111 that crashed last Tuesday has been salvaged from the Mediterranean. According to the report, the Libyans handed over the wreckage to the Russians. Today, our correspondent Kate Adey has visited a naval installation near Tripoli.
Are looking ahead to the possibility of higher education. The potential student faces many decisions, the biggest of which are what and where to study. But it seems that some universities here in our northwest are being underrated by students. A careers expert says the stereotyped image of northern cities is putting off many school leavers, particularly those from the south. And he says they're doing so at their peril, because the quality of higher education and the cost of living is often better here than in the south. Tim Wyatt reports.
Salford University has 4,000 students and has seen applications fall by about 4% this year. The number of students from the northwest and the south is about the same, but officials say there is a resistance to northern cities. The image of Liverpool has taken a dent recently, and so has the number of applications to the university. Administrators say there's a definite connection. Over a third of the students are from the region, but students from the south account for 10% less. At Lancaster, applications this year have fallen by 5%. They have more students from the home counties than from the northwest, and they're soon to start a publicity campaign to attract even more. Manchester has always been in the top 10 for applications, and they say it's a popular choice with students from the south, and they account for 2% more than homegrown school leavers. At UMIST, applications have also gone up by 2%. At the moment, about 28% of students are from the northwest, but their colleagues from the south amount to just over a fifth. In a new book, it's claimed that parents have a very strong influence on where their children go, and the image of a town or a city can outweigh the concern for quality of education. Its author is Brian Heap, a careers teacher from Preston. Why do you think we have such an inbuilt prejudice against the northern cities? Is that because of parents' attitudes in the south?
I think so, yes. I think we've got the dark satanic mills image that every university is industrial, and therefore not a particularly attractive proposition.
Do we have the same prejudice then in the north, do people in the north want to send their children to southern universities?
I don't find that at all. I find that my own students are quite happy to go south if there's a good course going, and I think this is the most important thing. What is the course like, and not what is the university like?
So this would seem to be strong evidence that the north-south divide, which we're always hearing about, is just getting even worse, in fact.
It seems to be, and it's very sad, because if we could get more people coming out from the south and experiencing life for 3 years in a university in the north of England, they may go away with very favourable ideas.
Do you think there's any way that this will change, or are we rather stuck with this image now?
We seem to be stuck with the image to some extent, and I think it's been unfortunate that over the last year or two, media coverage of problems in Liverpool, in places like Bradford, media coverage of problems anywhere will in fact affect, to some extent, the university problem.
So if the northern universities really want to market themselves and make themselves more attractive, what advantages can they point to parents in the south?
Well, you've got to look at subject areas. You find, you see, that Liverpool Polytechnic, very good on biology. Lancashire Polytechnic, very good on dress design and graphic design. Lancaster University, very good on religious studies. UMIST, very good on mechanical engineering. Manchester University, very good on physics. You're looking at subject areas, and I think it's vital for parents and students to go and have a look at these places before they make final decisions.
I find it rather remarkable that people don't actually travel to the university where they might actually be spending 3 years.
Oh, it happens, because a lot of universities don't interview these days. They will call students for open days, but there are still students doing this. I know one particular person who thought that York was going to be an ideal place for him to study, and it turned out that it's just the opposite as far as he's concerned, and he would far rather go to Leeds.
Mr. Heap, thank you.
Right there. Thank you.
The Test Tube Baby Clinic at St Mary's Hospital in Manchester is hoping to improve prospects for the many people on its long waiting list for treatment. The clinic was the first to be financed entirely by the National Health Service. It costs £250,000 a year, and the unit is asking the North Western Regional Health Authority for its budget to be increased. And to celebrate its past successes, the unit has held a party for all 13 babies born over the last 18 months. Colin Philpott reports.
Like all parties, it took a while for things to warm up. Some of the older ones were keen to socialise, but the youngest, born a month ago, seemed unmoved by the excitement. Eventually, though, everyone was getting on like a house on fire, and it was time for the group photograph.
Everybody smiled out, Chef, for the last time.
A proud moment for the doctors who've now achieved 12 successful pregnancies, including twins for one couple. Treatment at St Mary's has been entirely free for these families, most of whom couldn't afford to go to private clinics. Another 6 babies are on the way for women who've attended the clinic, but 1,400 childless couples are still on the waiting list.
Oh, familiar cry. What a crash that is. And just before the weather, the answer to a mystery which I know has been foxing many of you over the weekend. Sleepless nights you've had. On Friday night, we said the weather forecast would be accompanied by a view of the Tithe Barn at Garstang. What we showed was this, and you hardly need a degree in geography to realize that it bears little relation to the Lancashire landmark. Hardly surprising, as it is in fact. Sunset over Marple, captured by P. Quellen of that fair city.
This is the Tithe Barn as pictured by Peter Cameron of Poulton le Fylde. Sorry about that, gentlemen. Anyway, here is the weather, with the Tithe Barn, snow and all. But don't worry, there isn't any of that forecast for tonight. There will, in fact, be showers dying out with clear periods developing. Cloud and rain will give way to showery weather, temperatures 4 Celsius, 39 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow, after a bright start with some sunshine, there will be cloud, but it'll be cold, temperatures reaching around 9 Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit.
And thanks once again to Peter Cameron of Poulton le Fylde for that view of the Tithe Barn. Hope Jules is cold. Is better by tomorrow. From us both a fond farewell.
Programmes for tonight on BBC One continue the celebrations of the Queen's birthday with Happy Birthday Dear Mum at 7:35. A lively and colourful portrait of our much-loved monarch with glimpses of her life, formal and relaxed, informal and official.
When you realise how long she's been around, the people she's met, presidents, popes, there's nobody in the whole world of has ever done what the Queen's done. You know, she's a unique lady.
And at 10:10, a chance to see highlights of the day's events. This morning's service of Thanksgiving, when the royal family and their friends gathered in the beautiful and historic St. George's Chapel, Windsor. And this afternoon's musical and floral tribute from thousands of children at Buckingham Palace. And this is the full lineup of programmes tonight on BBC One.